Wow, Izzy, thanks so much for having me, hosting me here in your Izzy's Barbecues extension. We're sitting in the
Listen, I'm glad to be on my first podcast ever. It's exciting.
my man. Good to have you. I know you've done a couple interviews, but the first podcast, lovely to have you on the Great Day podcast. So much to talk about. You're such an interesting guy. You've taken some really major moves in the past couple of years in the realm of food and entrepreneurship. But I think to really sum it up, I was just doing just a little minimal research, and I found the Izzy's Barbecue bio, and I think it just encompasses exactly the personality of what your business model is all about. I'm going to read it out loud.
I don't think I read that probably in years.
I love it.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, low and slow is the way to go. Put that in a coffee mug. If you're the type of person who orders meat with a side of meat, a person who doesn't know the meaning of the word compromise, a person who cleans his plate without washing it, the type of person who will climb a mountain or traverse a valley for a serving of old style barbecue, well, if that sounds like you, welcome home.
Yeah. I had some good people help me with that. Actually, it was great. But,
You're saying you don't deal with the branding. It's
no, it's that's sort of, we were sort of trying to relay the vision into kosher at the time. How are we going to introduce 600 square foot restaurant for people to come all over the place, and we want to sort of keeping the wording minimal but still sort of inviting, but still introducing a new concept. So there's so much to play around with, really, in terms of expressing yourself. So it was fun and interesting.
Yeah, delving into this type of market, were you scared and worried about how the kosher market, the people will take upon this kind of food? I mean, it's different. It's not around. It's not common.
No, was I scared? It was very scary. We pretty much, was working an average job in management before. We were saving money for a house and sort of decided, to do a 360, all the way around, not the 180 really, and go into something that I've never done before. But I feel like the fire, the passion in me was so strong that I felt like any obstacles that I would have along the way would come through. I think in hindsight, I was probably just an idiot and just someone going, head straight in, which at times, there's pros for that as well. And I had a passion for something. There was no formula or nothing in that I was able to sort of emulate to sort of try to, do what we were doing. And thank God, I'm blessed, we're almost 5 years already. Obviously, it wasn't easy to get where I am today. We're still not done. There's still so much to do, and it's been a crazy ride. If I had to go into detail, I could for sure have my own MTV show. There's no question with, someone's going on to the restaurant industry, have no clue what he's doing, have, sort of a small amount of success, and you couldn't tell anybody in a business plan, this is how you should do it. So it's been nuts.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, the definition of entrepreneurship is jumping out of an airplane without a parachute and figuring out how to, build one as you go down. It's like going into the abyss, no control, just having a passion, having a plan, and moving forward into it.
Yeah.
Did you have any type of mentorship or anybody that you leaned on to get advice, how to build, this business that you have today?
In terms of the business, I wouldn't say the business, but in terms of the barbecue concept, yeah, it's I will say that when it comes to the barbecue community in general versus other food industries, it's totally other animal, different animal. And I say that because in most other food industries, most of the chefs, at least in years ago, were very hush-hush. If a chef had something secretive, they wouldn't really, tell somebody else. Competition right now, people are more open because everybody wants to learn and grow. So people are talking about everything really. But in barbecue is one of those things that if you're retarded enough or crazy enough to smoke a brisket for 18 hours and you have a 10-minute window to where that brisket is a perfect ratio, and then have it sit in a warmer and serve it at the perfect time, you have to be nuts really. So when you find someone else who has that same passion really, you sort of want to talk and you want to hang out. It's almost like your best friends without even knowing them.
Brotherhood.
Exactly. And for me, it was Ari White in the beginning, who was also known as the Wandering Q.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
On Cutter's Barbecue. He was my intro. He was like, I went to street food. We heard there's kosher barbecue happening that never existed at the time, really on a real level. We stood online there, my wife and I, for hours, and probably like $150, $200 for the food. And that's the story how my whole, to the food industry started. That day I fell in love with wood-fired cooking. We're good, awesome friends till now.
Wow.
I've also went around to other non-kosher places, just peeking around, speaking to people, and people have been very helpful.
Wow, so you really just sat down for dinner, just a normal regular day, just
on the street,
and on the street, just some street food, and that changed your life.
100%.
Changed your life.
Yeah,
that's an amazing thing to jump into. And what were you doing before? Was there anything?
I was working for building supplies company, nice people, but I was bored out of my mind. No real growth. I went to yeshiva. Really, we didn't really have any secular education.
Were you messing around in the kitchens like in
No,
school? Did
no,
you spend time with your mom on
No,
Shabbos?
my mom was always into making great food, mainly through her baking, but she always cooked. She always even though we didn't have too much money growing up, but she always steaks. Everything was we're always eating good. My friends always came over for us to eat. But in terms of me actually cooking, I was more focused on sports and other stuff. Cooking wasn't my thing. Then I found this passion of wood-fired cooking, and that sort of encompassed me pretty much.
Wow. I mean, so what does like a process of? I mean, not even like a compass. I mean, you really delved into it over the past 5 years since you started. You've not opened just one or two, but 3 restaurants, all within a 5-block radius.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you've been focusing on all in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York? Is there a reason why all in Crown Heights?
So the easy answer is that it's always nice to come home and see my kids. That time that people go home to travel. I'm able literally 3 minutes from home, and even though I'm working 75 to 80 hour weeks, and I don't have that 5 o'clock home life. I don't think any entrepreneur really has that. It's a myth. People think that you work a 9 to 5 job and you come and see. It doesn't work like that. People who hustle and people entrepreneurs, they're working.
Gotta grind.
You got to grind. It's always a grind. Obviously with the restaurant, it's a little harder. It's the food industry, very very tough. But being that I'm close to home is for sure definitely helps. But also, I think the next fact is that I definitely think Crown Heights is that hip and happening place that it's people are open to trying. People always say like I don't want to knock Flappers or any other places, but I'm going to Flappers to try this new place. I'm so excited. Going to Crown Heights, this place. I don't know what's going on. There's music. There's whether it's Allenby, Basil, Booth, all the restaurants. Just it's a very cool restaurant scene. I would say there's probably the diversity in the food over here is pretty surreal as well as what people are offering.
It's definitely, I would say, one of the most popular kosher food destinations, not just in the States, but in the world. I mean, it's really top notch these days in the variety of food. But it's interesting because you pumped in, I mean, you could correct me, tens of thousands of dollars into, what is it, a 600-foot square space?
Tens of thousands would be nice.
$100,000 into a square, in a 600 square space. I mean, not much seating. It's not fast food. It's sort of fast food, but it's priced pretty gourmet. I mean, so stepping into this whole how do you make sense of that? How do you get investors on board?
There's so many factors that go into this. The first thing is I would never advise anybody to do what I did.
Okay.
I can't take any model of business that I ever did compared to that, whether it's the taqueria or the fried chicken. Also, it's funny how you say fast food. People are not willing to pay necessarily fast food prices, but the reality is, it's the most time-consuming food. You're spending 24 hours on a single piece of meat. Which other cuisine has that, really? You're managing the fires, and even once it's done now you have to hold it for hours, and then when the customer eats it, you're not carving it right in your backyard when it's done. You have to hold it. So theoretically, that should be the most expensive food. But even in the non-commercial, people don't assume barbecue with expensive food. It was more sort of in a way, almost like a worker's food, middle class slave food in a way, is where the rich owners would sort of take the price cuts, whether it was the ribeyes or the tender cuts and all the briskets and the chuck and the short ribs, which cuts that if you tried grilling would be so tough. They threw them away to the slaves or the poor people, and those people realized that after cooking this underground, or it depends what region you're from, after cooking it low and slow for hours and hours, it became this tender piece of meat that you just can't explain or describe really.
Yeah.
So it's a labor of love, and it's just so time consuming. So it's not called fast food. I would say it's the epic of the highest end food there is, really.
Wow. I mean, and was it surprising to you that how well it took to the community? I mean, how many customers are you getting a day?
I don't know. I know that in the span of years, we probably went through so many cows. You can never put on paper the amount of people come into a 600 square foot store. It's crazy. We're blessed. And hopefully we're going to continue doing what we do. And I can't really explain it. Obviously I work hard. Other people work hard and are broke and homeless. So we're definitely. I can't say it's anything that I've done, personally. And that's the reason why. But I think as a team we put in hard work. I definitely couldn't do it without my family and my mom, my dad. They all work for me.
Not getting the Academy Award right now, but it's beautiful. This
business. It's it's hard to do without family, people you trust. My uncle's my partner. It's very hard to do without people.
Your uncle's your partner?
He's my partner in there. Very hard to do without good support around you, because like I said, I'm also sort of trying to break the restaurant mold of what it was back then. Back then used to be the person that's the owner has to be cleaning, sweeping, the floor, and that's the only way the restaurant, is able to be sustainable, and that's the only way it is. It's not like the same when the owner's not here. It could be they're right. Every restaurant, if I'm here all day, no question, the restaurant could be a little bit better. With every place you open, a piece of that restaurant goes away. But at the same time, you still want to have a healthy lifestyle. What happens is a lot of these people, they work and they grind and they get burnt out. You just get tired.
Right.
So I think it's more important, to instill good hobbies, have good people around you that you're able to sort of, do it in a healthy way. At the beginning, I was putting in 90-hour weeks at the beginning.
That's insane. Just because you have to stay up and watch the meat.
Yeah, it was anxiety, and we didn't know what we're doing, how many people we're serving, what are we preparing. The brisket wasn't like the brisket. People tell me, the brisket wasn't as good as it was back then. And I'm laughing in my head. The brisket back then was horrible compared to if these two places were to open right today, and the one would go to the other one would go to the other store and they would try both brisket. It'd be like, well, it's not even close. It's
But earlier on, when you were just starting off, did you you were just doing it in your own home? Did you have a smoker?
Yeah. So actually, my first intro to smoking at home is there's two stories. The first intro was on a gas grill. I bought a brisket in the supermarket, a lean brisket. I tried to cook it for 4 hours. It was dry. It was chewy. It was awful. Then I decided, I'm using a lean cut of meat. I need a smoker, not a gas grill. I need to cook it for longer. So I bought a smoker, but I lived in an apartment at the time. My parents have a little small backyard in Borough Park. Actually, put the smoker there. And the first night, I put in two big briskets. I'm sleeping at my parents. My wife's kids are at my apartment, and I'm sleeping in my underwear. I'm looking every second, checking the smoker. So suddenly, I hear 3 fire trucks at 3 a.m.
No.
Coming in. They come out of the fire trucks and they're smelling and they're looking. And I walk out of the front door. I'm like, guys, I think you're looking back here. And they come back to the backyard. Check 1, 2 guys smoking a brisket. It was so uncommon, and they're asking, "Is it ready yet?" At least I was like, "No," because I would offer them.
Right.
But sort of that was my first intro to smoking in here in Brooklyn, really. And over then, I bought a second smoker, and I bought a bigger smoker, which I hated. Which is
why is that?
Just the dynamics and the science of how the smoker was cooking. Like smoking is a science, like anything. It's not just you put it and you let it sit. There's airflow. There's your embers, which is your fuel, and you have your wood for flavor. You have air travels in a certain way. The meat has to break down, and the inside the meat there's this fat. That fat is tough, but if you break it down, in the correct way, if it cooks in the correct way, it'll start break down. It'll be really soft. There's so many variables that go in, and it's like a science, like anything.
Wow. So all these the way you talk about it, you tell the passion that's oozing out of you. It's insane. But all this information, it was just through experience, or did you go on YouTube and
I went to YouTube. I actually we were actually blessed. There's a place called Franklin's. It's in Austin, Texas. They're known to have the best. They're the best barbecue. When people know Smokehouse, it's Franklin's in Austin. They're open up 3 or 4 days a week. The line starts there on a Saturday at 5 a.m. People camp out for 4 to 6 hours for his food.
Oh my God!
He's the most nicest guy. His name is Aaron Franklin, the nicest, sweetest guy.
This is kosher food?
No, not kosher.
Not kosher.
No. He was he was one of the first that had real YouTube videos. And after we actually competed in Brisket King, New York City, 2016 and 17. We came in 2017.
And 17 you won.
17 we won.
So you beat this guy Franklin?
Oh no, he was a judge. He's from Austin, New York.
He's a judge.
He was one of the judges, and this other guy whose name is Daniel Vaughn on Instagram. He's known as the Barbecue Snob. He's the only paid barbecue critic in the world. So I became friendly with him over time. This is what we're doing. He came to my place. He was one of the judges as well, and he had the idea. Listen, I know that you're trying to you talk about Texas barbecue. Central Texas barbecue is what we emulate, which is the brisket speak for itself. Salt and pepper, sauce on the side. There's the debates and regional cuts. So I think it would be really cool if you had the opportunity to sort of not your dream, but to come down to Austin and cook with Aaron and see what what you're dreaming of as non-kosher food is. So we set it up in this way that Ari White and I from the Wandering Q went down to Austin, Texas. The trip was almost canceled. He had a fire in a smokehouse. The restaurant burnt down. No, and Franklin's.
Oh my gosh!
The whole world is going crazy. So and we thought it's canceled. The guy was such a mensch. He told us to come down anyway. Anyways, he's releasing a new line of smokers. So I brought down the meat from New York. He had a brand new smoker. We cooked for a couple of days. Hung out. It wasn't only the food. It was being in Austin, Texas. The environment, the people. It was just an amazing experience. So I got to try his brisket, obviously in a different format,
right.
But still, like not too many people will get to say that they've cooked with Aaron Franklin. It's just even in non-kosher, let alone kosher, which is surreal.
So what do you test all this? Because I know in 2017 you won, and which is also pretty ironic because you brought home the golden calf.
Yeah, golden calf. And then
which is very interesting.
Even funnier, this year we competed in Rib King, New York City. We also won. Everyone else was doing pork ribs. We did a beef rib, and the trophy was a pork rib.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so which is funny.
That's insane.
I think if I had to attest, or to what it is, I think it's like my ADD, OC, attention to detail, willing to go to the next step in terms of trying to achieve. Listen, okay, how can we do better? What are we doing differently? What could we, what are we going to spray the meat with? How can we adjust the seasoning? What do we adjust with the fire? There's so many factors.
We were having a chit chat before the podcast started with one of your workers, and he was with you for the past 4 years, and he actually mentioned problem comes up, Izzy loses it for a few minutes, but the fact is he'll come back and we'll have you 3 solutions. So he'll give you back and you're a problem solver, which I think is a really big deal when it comes to leadership. And
I don't know what it is. I don't think it's a problem solver. I think it's more that you don't have a choice.
All right, fine, but I think it's fight or flight. You're fight or flight. You hear this all right, throw your hands up in the air, you tackle it head on.
Yeah, this is a really funny, not funny, very sad story. My first pop-up was at CAY, Cover South Israel.
Yeah.
That was our first real pop-up before we opened. And we weren't ready. We didn't know what we were doing. It was cold. It was windy. The food was okay. I'm literally in my car about to cry and bug out. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But then at that same Shabbos, there was the story of the family that left the Blechan and the whole family. And I'm like, hold on a second. These people have like real problems in the world. Actual people are dying. It's only food. Just man up, go, and what's the worst that could happen? Be nice, be courteous about it, and we figured out. Listen, it was tough. I'm not saying it wasn't perfect, but we survived, and we're here today, really. So,
definitely. What are some of the challenges that you faced through the process of your growth in business that has helped you? They were tough in that time, but it helped you propel you to be ready for the future.
Yeah, no, so I think really the unknown in the beginning was we weren't sure what we're doing. What our business concept in the beginning was open a place for the community here. Some people will come, maybe I'll make a living, maybe I won't, I'll give it a try you're running, you're serving a ton of people, that this restaurant is not meant to serve this many people. What do you do? How do you factor that? We're also dealing with employees in the in the restaurant industry. The employees are very volatile in a sense is that, it's very hard work. You're on your feet all day. It pays not great. People think people think I'm rich. I'm working hard, working my whatever off. It's not for somebody who thinks they're gonna get rich. So your employees are not making a lot of money. That means they're working hard. People don't want to work so hard. You're turning over employees. You're also dealing with a certain clientele at times, which is some people who are very nice. Yeah. Some people are hard to deal with as
well. Let's be honest. We could sum up with this by a joke. Where a waiter comes over to a table full of Jewish mothers, and he's asked them, "Is anything okay?"
Yeah.
So it's not. Yeah. It's per case person, but it's not easy.
There's actually a documentary called online. It's called Ziggy's Deli, and it sort of goes into the history. There used to be thousands of delis around the U.S.
Right.
On Manhattan, there was 1,000 delis.
Sure.
We're all gone.
Right.
And the way he sums it up is that this person, the old grandmother comes into the store. She's like, okay, I want the beef, but I don't want the one from the front. I want the fresh one to the back. Because, but I want the salmon, but I want from the middle one. I want it without the bones. The waiter comes over. Chicken soup is too salty. Have you tried it? No. That's he goes into it. Listen, that's not a big thing. That's just part of it. Also, we're dealing with we were the first ones. I would say, Ari White and I were the people who before us. Brisket was a cheap cut of meat. No one wanted brisket or even short ribs. Was also easier cut to get, flanken. Now that's the hottest cuts of meat. So you have to deal with the holidays and the supermarkets, get to pick which meats they want first. You're secondary. So you're sort of, having to figure out in the non-kosher world, you have pork ribs, you have other items that you pulled pork that you could do. What are you going to do in kosher, to sort of supplement the fact that you're getting, not reliable quantities of meat. You're dealing with vendors. They're doing you have to know how to play with your vendors, because, they're sort of, even though you're paying them within 2 weeks, they're doing you a favor. And then you have to carry a whole bunch of vendors because in case when he's out, you still have to have a relationship with him. And then you have to have a lot of capital as well in a way because you have to be able to store 20, flanken is expensive. I can't have whatever I need for the week. I need to have whatever I need for the month. So it's constantly evolving, changing, and it's that is smokers. I remember our first event we did in Deal, New Jersey. My smoker broke the night before. I have to be in Deal in 4 hours. I don't have yet the briskets are ready yet. And I'm like, figure it out. I took a fan from next door, blew it in the fire shaft. Just started. Oh, don't even ask.
But I must ask. What did you do? Oh, dude. I'm getting anxiety just thinking about that.
We actually survived the event and went well. And then there's some events which we bombed. We got stuck in traffic because in the beginning, when I had no food experience whatsoever. I try to cook everything, to the last second and bring it over and make sure it's fresh as possible. The reality is when you're doing big quantity cooking, that's not how it works.
Right.
Whatever's supposed to go wrong goes wrong on that day. You have a flat tire, the smoker broke, this guy came late. You forgot. It's a never-ending anxiety at some point. It's crazy. There's constant challenges. You're also closed on Friday and Saturday most of the year. That's where probably most of the revenue in non-kosher restaurants happen. So there is no, obviously there's at times where you feel like you're in control. Hey, it's like, hey, I got this. And then you realize, oh, here it goes again,
Right. But I feel like the Jewish community makes it up because maybe Friday, Saturday in the non-Jewish world, that's where most business comes from. But I think as the Jewish people, we like to eat every single day and eat out all the time. So it may balance it out, or
I don't know. There's a real listen. The reason why most restaurants close down, and the reason why I say that, it's not because the food wasn't good. The restaurant's the hardest business. It's like I would never. People think because technically you have some money, you could open up a restaurant, but I would never take my money and put it in tech because I don't know anything about tech industry. I don't know. It's the same thing. Just because you know how to cook something at home, you still have to have the structure of a business and your margins. And I didn't know that. I really happened to get lucky in the beginning. I was able to go into a concept that no one really had, and I sort of to learn through that how to do it. Even till today, I'm still learning. Still learning every day. It's like the same thing. Just because you open up a restaurant doesn't mean it's going to be successful. Just because you make one good dish at home doesn't mean anything. Just because your mother made a good matzo ball soup, you didn't find it's more than anything with a restaurant. The biggest contributing factor to success is being consistent. That's the number one thing, and that's really the hardest thing: being consistent, knowing your margins, and that stuff I struggle with. Still today. The inside me wants to be an innovative person. The entrepreneur, grow. But then you have the reality. It's like, wait, you can't do this. You don't have money. You have to, think before you do this. You can't just hire employees at will. There's just so many factors, and food is like no other business, just harder.
Yeah. So how do you? So I mean, with this type of fire within you, how do you? What do you see you're going to bring Izzy's next? I see you have been growing not just in size, 3 restaurants, but also in styles. Do you plan on creating different other style restaurants, or are these going to be the 3, focus and then just multiply with that?
I probably had another answer a week ago. I had probably another answer half a year ago. In my mind, the goal was, and I'm probably, at this point, I think I'm taking a break a little bit. We had plans for a new place. Obviously,
a 4th place?
No, we were supposed to open up a bigger smokehouse. But like I said, I make plans. Hashem, he laughs. So we're still working on that. I don't know what's gonna happen with that. I'm probably gonna take a little bit of a break, obviously now. But for me, the goal was always, when we go out to eat now, there are places to go out to eat, but there aren't a lot of places that really interest me in where I want to go eat. There are no question, but there are then the places that I'm not interested in eating the same food that I've been eating my whole life. And for me, the goal was really is to sort of do foods that is sort of new in concept, new to kosher. But as far as anything right now I'm just trying to it's with 3 restaurants, especially even though they're so close in proximity, it still needs a lot of babying. We turn over chefs, so you hire new people. It's constant. Anytime you think you have it under control, you could have the best business plan on paper, and it sounds smart, and everybody will tell you that it sounds good. But the reality is, as soon as you fail, they're like, I knew he was going to fail the whole time. When we succeed, I knew he was going to succeed.
Right.
And that's really what it is. Like you said, you're going into the lot lines then, and you figure it out.
Were there people along your journey that did not believe in you, who said, yo, you're crazy, don't do this. Stay in the safe spot. You have a job, you got a wife and kids. What are you going to do right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest one was my friend Ari White from The Wandering Q. I sort of started working for him as a hobby just to learn. His advice the whole time was, you're crazy, you're nuts, you're not going to see your family. You're probably going to fail as well at some point. And, and it wasn't in a bad way. It's more sort of, most people are saying it in a bad way, oh, you're going to fail. He was actually, saying it from a genuine place as well, even family. So my wife was supportive, but she wasn't. I would, if I was my wife, I would have let him be there. What do you want to go open a business and you don't know nothing? What are you doing? So there were people who were saying what the hell are you doing? But the reality is, like I said, I wasn't content with where I was. I think the fact that I wasn't content is, contributed factors to where I am today. If I was happy with my job, I wouldn't look for anything. It's because I was so, I guess, unhappy or just not growth real. I was I need to do something. And the fact I found my niche, this is what I could do. This is how I could, change my life and for the better. And I was I'll figure it out.
Wow. So that's really amazing. So, when you have, I know you already mentioned if someone says, hey, should I go into this, restaurant business or more particularly this smoked, barbecue business, you would say, don't do it. Well, or would you say through your experience, what, I was told not to, but yo, go for it.
So obviously, like I said, if it was my kids, I would advise them never to go into the business. It's not just.
Yeah.
But I would say is that obviously, if you're going to do it, you can obviously you have to go ahead in. but you do have to have some sort of plan, like as far as to what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. You got to have that, some sort of business plan. I had that very little, and I got very lucky. And like I said, I can never, emulate anything I did comparable to the smokehouse. But the reality is, if you feel something strongly about something and you have passion, so there's a few factors. There is one factor that if you have a good business plan, you could make money. But then there's the other part that if you are passionate and strong-willing and to not committed to fail, that you could also succeed as well. So when you combine those two factors of being smart about it and being very passionate, you could you have a higher chance of succeeding. Really, what it is. But like I said, if I'm gonna go and I could have a passion about something that I don't know anything about, I'm gonna fail.
Right.
Really.
It sounds interesting because with your background, you went to yeshiva and there was no English studies, secular studies. I know with a lot of conversations with a lot of my friends and growing up, we felt deprived of our education. Like we didn't study, or we didn't know how to go into business. But would you say I don't know if you ever held that opinion, growing up, but would you say that's sort of false? Because look at me now, look at you now. Like you're running a business, you a very somewhat successful business. So what kind of message would you say to maybe kids who are listening who are say going through the system, or do you think it is valid to have that kind of argument? And also on top of that, I'm going to sandwich a lot of it. What credit would you give to your upbringing, if any, to where you find yourself today doing what you love?
So as far as if I thought that I went to Garrett actually, which is super religious in Garrett. I only came to Lubavitch when I was in 7th grade. My mom is Lubavitch, my father is not. But we always grew up around Crown Heights. We actually live in Borough Park. Actually, we don't live in Crown Heights. So I went to extremely religious school where I felt out of place, and it wasn't that my parents sent me to a bad school. That's all they do. They came from Israel, where they're going to send their kids to. It's cheap. It's right next to the house. So a few factors. I will say, I guess the fact that I was so hated and miserable in school. I was trying to jump around, and it wasn't for me. Sitting down in a class just wasn't for me. I wasn't a studious person. It was not for me. What did the school didn't cater to me? With that said, at the same time, I am where I am today probably because of it. Or could I say if I was better, if that was treated in a better way or better school, I could have been. I don't know. Everything worked out. I have kids, family, wife. Everything worked out. So what am I going to complain about? But the reality is, if someone told me that I have to go through those years of school again to get where I am today, I don't know if I could do it either. So
right.
It's a very interesting question. And as far as people who are, today in a similar situation, I definitely feel like today there are more options. Like I said, don't be content. It's very.
Ooh. Okay, before we delve into this, right now I'm looking right in front of me. We got some brisket and some ribs.
No, so we got brisket, and here we have burnt ends, actually. So this is Central Texas barbecue, and this is actually Kansas City. So what happened once upon a time, this here, I'm not going to touch my hands, but this is called the second cut brisket, and that's the flat. You see how within you can tell on the video, you see how within here there's this gelatinous fat almost.
Yeah.
So this is once upon a time was considered the trash. People used to cut that off and throw it out. People only want the lean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Really?
Cut
nice.
that out, and they would cut out the fatty and throw out the fatty and only eat the lean part. People got smarter. They realized, hold on, this is the best part of the brisket. But in Kansas City, what happened is they would take this part, usually cut it up, re-sauce it, and put it back in the smoker, and that was called actually burnt ends, really. So being that we had to, we didn't have pork ribs or other items to do, we sort of, started to play around, really.
I see what you mean. You really take it literally, meat with a side of meat. I mean, there's not much sides going on. We got some pickles. It's nice. So we got some cabbage.
It's the acidity to cut up the richness.
Yeah, no, it's
really what it is.
It looks pretty. It looks pretty, but I mean, I guess people are coming here just for the meat.
Absolutely.
They're coming here, just to get down and get there.
Absolutely.
But let's be honest about the taqueria for a second. It's slow. It's slow, right? Isn't it slower than the other restaurants? And I mean,
I don't know if the word is slow. Obviously, like I said, introducing a brand new concept as far as authentic Central American cuisine into kosher. Like I said, the piles of meat will always speak to people, but like a fresh tortilla or a spicy salsa, cut meat, on a smaller portion, most people, they don't understand that. They want to go to a deli, they want big sandwiches, really. So that's what the not cuisine is. But the reality is, I look at it almost like it's an addition to the smokehouse, really. We're sort of, in the reality is we couldn't combine the space. So we figured that we sort of add a new element to the menu, and really what it does, really, it helps us cooking wise, help us do more commercial cooking there. Okay. We do have a lot of cool items there, and people come to really enjoy it. Yeah.
That's amazing, right? And with the fried cooking, with the fried chicken spot, which I recently went to, which was amazing. I really enjoyed that experience as well. But you hit some bumps over there, right? I mean, also I think with opening up your first barbecue, but with getting just the amount, just paperwork, government, getting the right licenses, and then there was the issue with the gas.
Yeah, I always joke around. I say that I don't think I'm gonna want to open up a restaurant in New York City ever again, because just the emotional stress they have to deal with just to open it before you even operate business. Not enough that you're investing or hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars into a restaurant. Okay, I'm investing, now let me open. It's like until you open, dealing with the DOB, dealing with the Department of Health, dealing with all these factors, construction, stop work orders, landlords. It's like before you even open, you're already like miserable, and then the light at the end of the tunnel is opening up a restaurant, and then dealing with all the the crap then. So it's so stressful.
Right. Well, I mean, this food is right now sitting in front of us. So I mean, want to dig in for a second? You could.
After you.
All right. Let's do it. Oh man, what would you say go first? Burnt ends?
I would go first with the brisket because you want to do something. I would start with the part on top first.
All right.
Yeah. See how it cuts.
Oh, it just cuts right off. It comes right off.
Yeah, people ask me when
insane.
When we first opened up, people was always asking me like, "Oh, why don't you you're serving us ribs and brisket? Why don't you serve it with a metal fork and knife?" I'm like, I said, try eating it. If you need a fork and knife, metal fork and knife, you let me know after. He's like, you're right.
It literally just falls off. Just the pieces just are so watery. Yeah. So and that again, what could you give to that? I mean, it's known the dinosaur ribs. Everything comes off so beautifully, so juicy, so full of flavor, and so soft. What's the secret behind that?
Love, I think.
Baby,
that's what it is, really.
It's a little Izzy love right there. That's amazing. Yeah, let me try these burnt ends here. So the ends of what exactly? It's
the brisket here. So you see how this part has the seam in the middle?
Yeah.
So we would be cutting off that part, cubing it up, resaucing it, put it back in a circle, so it's still like tender and moist inside to an extent, but it's nice, crispy, saucy, a little more heavy on the smoke more as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here you go. Grab some.
I'm good for now. Maybe the actors who are filming here.
The crew.
Good. Yeah.
We'll get them some tortillas or something.
Yeah.
We'll keep this for the.
Yeah.
Wow. Yum.
I'll try the burnt end.
Go for it. Do you get high off your own supply? Do you like eat out here all the time, eating a lot of meat? Tell the wifey I'll grab dinner at the restaurant.
Usually it's the wifey could bring home food from one of your restaurants.
Got it. There you go. Nice.
I wouldn't say I'm never actually sitting down to eat like a full meal like this, but I'll grab a sandwich. I'll grab like the tacos. I like eating a lot. I'll put some brisket in a sandwich here and there. Yeah.
Touch and go.
Yeah, but at the same time, I want to eat other places too.
When are we going to have an Izzy's Barbecue cookbook?
No idea.
Is that something that maybe in the horizon?
Listen, everyone always has thoughts in their head and they're racing, but what's reality, what's fiction, is still yet to be decided.
Aha, very good. That's really. What are there any new exciting foods that you're going to be bringing to the menus anytime soon?
Well, for sure at the fried chicken place, we're going to be expanding the menu there as well. We're sort of getting our feet wet now. We're going to be getting full liquor there too. So we're hoping, to create like a really cool, I don't know if you were there that night when you were there, but it's like a very cool vibe, like
very
jazz
cool
music,
yeah,
blues. We're hoping to, elevate that with the alcohol, make it more of a fun experience. I think with Taqueria as well, we're going to be adding a ton of new items to sort of, spice it up a bit.
Literally.
Yeah, exactly. A little spice it up. And we actually, when we first opened, we had actual, girls from Mexico, were making real like salsas, and we'll still have that, but we had to tell them
authentic salsas.
Yes, we have to calm down. Like I love that. I love spice.
Yeah,
and I love to cook what I like to eat. But the reality is we have to tone down everything. But people are just dying.
Come on, we got a lot of Ashkenazi Jews out there. You know what I mean? This is.
And eventually here, we're here a little bit. We're sort of limited with what we're able to do here.
Yeah.
I think the focus is just trying to do what we do and do it better.
Well, it's pretty amazing how not just the kind of food that you have, but it attracts so many people who are Jewish and not from around the 5 boroughs in the world. They come to New York, I got to come to Crown Heights. I mean, I host my meetings now in Crown Heights for the sake of I want to go to Izzy's. I'm like, great. I see myself on a ride to the city, to Manhattan.
Yeah, the stories that I hear is crazy. Someone actually just messaged me this week that he was in Washington for a meeting, and he said he's from Crown Heights, and the woman goes, not even Jewish. Oh, Crown Heights. Oh, I went to Izzy's over there. It was delicious.
Wow.
And then people in Israel, people come from the airport. They come straight here to eat. It's like. It's crazy, and it wasn't even I didn't even I think part of the success of that is that I weren't even trying to do that. It just happened to happen.
So how are you handling this newfound celebrityism? Like, you're getting stopped. I'm, seeing selfies with people. How's that going for you?
I wouldn't call myself a celebrity, compared to you.
It's not a competition.
Listen, you won already. No competition. It's great. I already listen.
Slow, baby. You're making moves.
Listen, is it the biggest? I think the hardest thing with that, and I don't know if you'll agree with me now. It's like, you may have met 10 other people right before that who wanted to hear your story, and then to have that same enthusiasm like the 11th, 12th person, that's the hardest part, really. If it was a hi, how are you, that's fine, but that's where the hardest part is. But like I said, if it makes the kid happy, and perhaps I don't mind doing it at all.
Well, I'm glad we're getting into the podcast in the earlier stages, because right now you're so excited to share your story. So
exactly.
Come back in part 2 or 3.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're getting it while it's fresh and hot.
I think one of the funny stories are that my friends actually, some people Izzy, and to everyone else, I'm surly before, and we started going on our snowboarding trips already for years already now.
Yeah,
that was with my old job.
Which, by the way, I hear it's a very elite group of friends, because I hear they get it good, man. You guys, and you're coming to food and you're smoking the meat on mountaintops. Like that's exclusive. You could even dude, I'm sorry I cut you off there, but you could totally do this really experience, man, the Izzy experience. Go, cook for people. Have you been flown down?
No,
Or that's your fun time with friends, separating business and pleasure.
Yeah. You still want to maintain a quality life, but we used to go on the trips, and we're in Aspen, Colorado.
Yeah,
not
great slopes over there.
Yeah, great slopes there. There's someone who recognized me there. You're Izzy? And my friends oh God, even in here they recognize you. That's the biggest joke.
You can't go, man. You can't get anywhere without people seeing you.
Yeah, my other friend, one of my other friends, Yankee. We're flying economy to Utah, or whatever it was. Yeah. And you know how the Star and the Inquirer, they have stars just like us.
Yes.
And he makes me and shopping bag and sunglasses. They shop just like us.
Actually, I heard something really funny that Robert Simcha. Anyways, he says Izzy's barbecue and restaurants are single-handedly bringing the cholesterol of everybody in this community to a new level. You're just
I'm honored.
Just stuffing the arteries.
Is there an award for that? Or?
Yeah, it's good, and you bring a lot of joy.
Shalom bias.
Yeah, you bring a lot of shalom bias, bring a lot of joy. People walk into your stores, they leave happy, they feel filled. It's a really great thing. So moving forward now, the next 5-10 year plan, what can we see? You think you're gonna go nationwide, international?
I think these next 2 years from now are going to be really telling for me as far as what happens in the future. The restaurant business is very hard, very time consuming. So I guess in the next 2 years we'll see where obviously you want to grow and you want to do it at the same time. You're wait, my kids are still young. You want to see them grow up. You want to travel with them, keep an open up new places. How are you going to do that? At the same time, you want to provide for your family. You want to be innovative. So there's so many stuff that you battle within that's more than just money, and there's just so much involved. You have to consult with your family. What your family wants as well. So the next 2 years will really dictate what happens in the next 10 years. The next 10 years to go over 40. That's scary.
That's scary, man. I'm turning 30 in a few weeks. It's it's a trip. It's exciting.
It's only an age.
Yeah,
it's only a number.
It's just you don't grow old because you stop playing. You stop playing. That's when you grow old.
Yeah.
So just keep having fun. So to end it off, what's a great day for Izzy?
I guess anytime I get on before 1 o'clock.
Well,
any day. I honestly, how in my old job, after when I had the weekend. Actually, this is I heard it from Gary Vanderchuck recently, which I also was thinking about it the whole time.
Gary B.
And anybody who has to look forward to the weekend, and Monday's gonna hate, you're doing something wrong. And I feel like for me, obviously, everything has its challenges and stuff, but at the same time, I wake up in the morning, I don't dread work. I'm excited to go to work. I'm excited, to see what we can do today, how we can grow. Obviously, you have challenges. Workers don't come in. You have to fire workers. There's customers complain. So many factors, but I guess at the end of the day, I'm blessed to do what I do. I would never think, I would be here where I am today. Asked me 5 years ago, six years ago, and I'm just gonna keep, riding that wave, hopefully.
Nice, man. Well, listen, much success with you, and aslacha, and keep growing, man. And thank you for the incredible service and foods that you bring to all of us all.
Thank you for having me. Honored to be here.